Hello everybody and welcome back to another Logan Blackman Show YouTube video. Hope you all have had a fantastic week since the last time we have spoken to each other. And as you can probably tell by the title, in this one we will be taking an insanely early look at the United States potential World Cup squad for the 2030 World Cup. And it seems things have settled down a little bit in regards to the 2030 World Cup. There was a report that came out that Gianni Infantino, the president of FIFA, said he's going to start selling stakes in the World Cup. So UEFA said, nah, we're missing that noise. We don't want to be a part of that. And then CONCACAF did the exact same thing. And then, you know what? You put enough pressure on their necks, they're going to fold, and UEFA folded, or FIFA folded, sorry. And they said, you know what? We're not going to do that anymore. So that's a positive move in the right direction. At least hopefully it stays. First, let's go over the housekeeping items. Make sure to follow the Logan Blackman Show on every single form of social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all those great social media accounts, all will be linked down in the description below. You can also check out the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can go to loganblackmanshow.com. We have some blogs coming out for you as the college football season comes out, so make sure you're on there. And also make sure to check out our official TLBS staff rankings for the 2026 NFL season, for the quarterback rankings, top 10 list, all that stuff. We'll have a video coming out for that very, very soon. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Here's the numbers for all you who are not subscribed. If you're not sure you're subscribed, but you think you are, might as well go and double check and hit the bell as well. And if you're already enjoying the video, give this a thumbs up. But if you're not a trusting individual, I don't necessarily blame you. We'll wait till the very end. I'll remind you there. And if you do enjoy it or you didn't enjoy it by the time we reach that point, let me know your feelings down in the comment section below. Love, hate, whatever. If it's about the U.S., it's about the 2030 World Cup, Gianni Infantino, FIFA, UEFA, CONCACAF. If it's about me, whatever you want to do, leave it down in the comment section below. But once again, in this video, we'll be taking a look at the United States potential squad for the 2030 World Cup. And hopefully this is it ends on a more happier note. Like, I'm not going to sit here and act like the United States is going to go out of their way to win the 2030 World Cup. I have a very hard time believing that, but ending it better than what we did for the 2026 World Cup is the ultimate goal. The way that game ended against Belgium, 4-1, losing toothlessly like that. I mean, this is a generation that has been called upon regards to their mentality. They crumble when the lights are the brightest, and that was fully on display in that game. And then all the talks about the Balogun red card suspension and it brought some unnecessary attention that they didn't really want, and Belgium were motivated in that game. The United States just, again, absolutely crumbled, and there's been a lot of conversation about the United States managerial position, and as per reports, it's not officially official yet, at least maybe it is by the time this video comes out, but as I stand here right now, it's not officially official, but it seems like Mauricio Pochettino will be returning as the United States men's national team manager for the 2030 World Cup, giving him a full World Cup cycle to work with, because remember, he came in 2 years prior to the 2026 World Cup because they sat on their hands for too long with Greg Berhalter, and we're like, you know what, after the 2022 World Cup, we're going to look in a different direction. BJ Callahan, you're going to be the interim manager for the time being. You're going to manage a few Nations League games. You're going to win the Nations League with the U.S. playing some of the most exciting attacking soccer you've seen from the United States men's national team in God knows how long. And we're interviewing all these different people. We got this extensive interview process just to hire Greg Berhalter back, because all the stipulations that the United States put in place for their managerial appointment was basically just Greg Berhalter again. So if you're going to look at that and go, well, who fits all these things that Greg Berhalter fits? And it's Greg Berhalter. So let's just go back and hire him. And then all the stuff that happened after that, with the failures that happened after that with the Copa America, the famous 1-1 clip, probably the most famous image in United States men's national team history, at least one of the most famous images in United States men's national team history, and one of the most, it showed the incompetence and the complacency that the United States was in at that point in time. And Pochettino did a great job at rectifying that. Yes, it took a while to get to that spot, but we saw the performance of the 2026 World Cup, the amount of goals they were scoring, the attacking output that they had, the togetherness that they had prior to the game against Belgium. But there's only so much you can do as a manager when the mentality is still there. That negative mentality, that complacency that we've talked about just a little bit ago, that's still there. So there's still going to be some things, some wrinkles to iron out and stuff like that. But I'm all for Mauricio Pochettino coming back as the United States men's national team manager. And if you told me that a year ago, I don't know if I would have necessarily believed you, when he was managing in charity matches, where he was flirting with Europe constantly with his team, going over and talking with AC Milan. It didn't really seem like he wanted to be the United States manager long term. But you know what? Again, I'm for it. The only other person I would have really thought of was BJ Callahan, who we mentioned just a little bit ago, with the exciting soccer that he's produced for the United States and with Nashville SC, who are one of the best teams in the MLS. Like, he would have been the clear favorite to replace Mauricio Pochettino had they moved on to a different direction. Now, again, nothing's officially official yet, so there could still be time where something folds over, but per all the reports, it seems like conversations are going well with Mauricio Pochettino taking over, or continuing his role as the United States head coach. And given a full World Cup window is an exciting task to see. And looking at this 2030 World Cup squad, I think a lot of people right now on social media, maybe not right now, but the initial reactions after the game against Belgium was that, oh, we need to get all these players out. Pulisic, McKennie, Adams, this generation's done. We're moving on completely. But I hate to break it to you, and I don't want to be the guy that hurts all your feelings, or not all of you, but some of your feelings out there, is that the United States, a lot of these guys are going to be in the 2030 World Cup squad. If we just look back to 2022, 13 of the players that were in the 26 squad were in the 2022 squad, and we're going to have a similar number in the 2030 squad as well. It might be some players that you don't want. Like, there's a lot of people who are really down on Christian Pulisic, which that's been some time coming, with the nonchalantness of his interviews, the questioning of his heart and his passion, if he truly wants to be the face of U.S. soccer. By the time the 2030 World Cup rolls around, he'll only be 31 years old. So I'm sorry for if anybody thinks that he's not going to be in the squad. Maybe something changes by that point in time. But as things stand right now, there's about a 99% chance that Christian Pulisic is in the squad. And I understand some of the frustration with Christian Pulisic. I mean, the dude's made of freaking paper. You look at him too long, he's going to injure something. He's played in, I think, he's 7 World Cup games, or he's been in 7 World Cup games. He's left injured in 3 of them or something like that. The game against Iran, the game against Paraguay, and the game against Belgium. And they obviously missed the game against Australia, came in as a sub, and the game against Turkey. Like, there's a lot of easily things to point out and be frustrated about with Christian Pulisic. And do I think he's the best player on this national team anymore? No. And I said this prior to the World Cup, that I thought Weston McKennie was the best player on this team. But now, after the World Cup, you can look at firmly Folarin Balogun and Malik Tillman as being the quote-unquote faces of U.S. soccer. And Balogun's getting linked with a move to PSG. I mean, Gonzalo Ramos, he goes to AC Milan, so there's a hole in that striker position. Bradley Barcola's getting linked with a big move to Liverpool. So they're attacking depth. What's made PSG so great across these past 2 seasons is the amount of depth, the amount of rotation they do. And what we saw from the United States at this World Cup, with the fluidity in the attack, Balogun would fit in perfectly there. Obviously, he wouldn't be the main striker there because that's Ousmane Dembele. I mean, he just won the Ballon d'Or last year. So it's kind of hard to sit back and go like, yeah, he'll be a guaranteed starter there. But he can make some noise. With PSG, he had a great season for Monaco. He's their player of the year. Like, it's exciting to look at Balogun and Malik Tillman and go, yes, we believe in you guys going forward. The heart that you guys displayed at this World Cup is second to none. So it's fun to look at guys like that, but it's kind of is disheartening at the same time to see players like Christian Pulisic get usurped as the United States #1 guy, again, if they ever were the #1 guy. But you look at this 2030 squad, again, roundabout way, we're back to the 2030 World Cup squad. But if you look at this squad, 26 players going to the World Cup, and we're starting off with the goalkeeper position. I'm going to hurt some feelings right off the bat, but I have a hard time believing that Matt Freese will not be in the 2030 World Cup squad. I know, I wouldn't bring him either. The goal that he allowed in the game against Belgium was one of the worst goals I've ever seen allowed in any level of game, let alone youth soccer all the way up to senior international soccer. It's one of the worst goals I've ever seen. But he's been Mauricio Pochettino's #1 since the Gold Cup last year. I have a hard time believing Mauricio Pochettino is just going to completely scrap the idea of him. I mean, people have bitched and moaned about Max Arston forever, and he's been one of Mauricio Pochettino's favorite players. He didn't play a lot at this World Cup, but he's been in and around the squad ever since Mauricio Pochettino took over. Same with Sebastian Berhalter, players that have been kind of lambasted on social media. He still brings them into the squad. Christian Roldan being another one. I have a hard time believing that after that moment that he's going to completely turn his back on Matt Freese. Now, will he be the starter? That's a completely other story, because you have players like Chris Brady, who I think will be in the squad as well, who I personally think is better than Matt Freese. And he's younger. He's better with his feet. I feel more confident in him. Yes, he gave up that unfortunate goal against Senegal, but Miles Robinson kind of put him in no man's land, and he hesitated just long enough to give Nicholas Jackson, I believe, enough time to chip it over him. And I think Sadio Mane ended up scoring the goal. I can't remember exactly, but it's an unfortunate first cap for him. but he'll definitely be in and around the squad. And then Diego Koshin from Lyngby. Yes, he's on loan at Lyngby. He didn't have the greatest debut from them, but in regards to a technical goalkeeper, he's got the highest ceiling in regards to the technical side of the game, in regards to playing with his feet, which comes from being in La Masia, playing for Barcelona. Like, he's an exciting goalie. He's 20 years old. He'll be 24 by the time the 2030 World Cup rolls around. And if he gets some consistent playing time, then there's no reason to believe why he couldn't be in and around the squad, or if not one of the starters going into that tournament. But he's still yet to receive a full international cap for the U.S., so I have to wait for that. But as of right now, I have a hard time thinking those wouldn't be the three. But there are other players like Andrew Rick for the Philadelphia Union. He's currently the backup there, but Andre Blake's getting older. He's going to be the guy that eventually replaces him. He's got a very high ceiling. A lot of people are excited for him. Patrick Schulte for the Columbus Crew. He's been in around Mauricio Pochettino squads. Brian Schwake from Nashville SC has been one of the best goalies in the MLS. He could definitely get a run of games going this year. And there's some young guys in there as well, like Leonard Prescott, 16 years old for Bayern Munich. He's represented Germany at underage level, but he's from New York City. He has an American father, so he's a guy to definitely look out for. Brendan Nozawa over there in Belgium, Japan International. They missed out on Zion Suzuki, but this is another guy with an American father representing Japan at international level, the underage side. He could be a guy that you definitely look at in regards to recruiting for a potential new number one for the United States. But as we've seen, and I'll touch on this a little bit more as we go on, Mauricio Pochettino, and maybe this is better given that he has a full World Cup cycle to work with. He hasn't been the best recruiter for dual nationals. There was a lot of people talking about Nathaniel Brown, who's the starting left back for Germany. A lot of people pining for Mauricio Pochettino to get him over the line. Obviously didn't do that. And if you look at some of the players the United States currently has, none of those guys that were dual nationals were recruited by Mauricio Pochettino. So hopefully he steps up in that regard and gets a player like maybe Leonard Prescott playing for Bayern Munich. And then you look at Brendan Nozawa for goalies. And we'll talk about some other players as well later. But then Gaga Slonina, this other guy's going to be talked about quite a bit. We just need him to get some playing time. The Strasbourg move is not going to happen because they just sent Jorgensen there. Penders is coming back in the opposite direction. So he's the pecking order at Chelsea is not necessarily the greatest for Gaga Slonina. And he was the guy that you'd look at as a potential face of the goalkeeper position for the next however many years, but he just hasn't had that playing time at Chelsea, which just isn't that surprising given Chelsea's history. But if I had to name the goalies right now, I would say it's Matt Freese, Chris Brady, and Diego Koshin. Whatever order you want, I would if I had to bet right now, I would guess that Chris Brady will be the starter, but that remains to be seen. I do have a hard time, though, again, thinking that Matt Freese won't be in the squad, given regardless of what you or I believe, I just have a hard time thinking that this was his last cap for the United States men's national team. I have a really hard time believing that, especially if Mauricio Pochettino remains as the manager. Now, if someone else comes in, like a BJ Callahan, maybe Brian Schwake goes in and replaces Matt Freese there. We'll have to wait and see. But moving on to right back, there's not a lot of up-and-coming right backs for the United States men's national team. You got Marlon Fossey. You've got Brian Reynolds, who just made a move to Belgium. So there's going to be some talks around those guys. But the main guy you could look at as regards to a prospect, if you want to call him a prospect, still he's 20 years old, but Frankie Westfield for the Philadelphia Union. Great going forward, can play right and left back, and he's part of the youth revolution at the Philadelphia Union right now. You got him, you got Neil Pierre, we'll talk about in a little bit, Kevin Sullivan. But looking at the rest of the right backs right now, what does Frankie Westfield do right now that is better than the three right backs the United States brought for the 2026 World Cup? And that's Serginho Dest, Alex Freeman, and Joe Scally. And I think it kind of gets lost on people that Joe Scally is only 23 years old. Joe Scally is really young. Like, everybody talked about how young Alex Freeman is, and rightly so. The dude's 21 years old. But Joe Scally, consistently playing for Borussia Mönchengladbach, the youngest American player to make X amount of appearances in the Bundesliga. I can't remember exactly what the exact stat is. I'll throw it up on the screen. I brought it up in previous videos, but I can't remember exactly. But I have a hard time at this point thinking that Frankie Westfield breaks into that mold. Now, maybe they bring him as a guy who can play at left back. As of right now, I have a hard time believing that the right backs will not be Dest, Freeman, and Scally. So I'm going to keep the same three right backs from the 2026 World Cup. And then moving on to center back, Chris Richards will obviously be in there. He might be the captain that by the time the 2030 World Cup rolls around, be him or Tyler Adams, one would presume. But Chris Richards, one of the most consistent players, one of the best overall players for the United States men's national team. Barring an injury, this would be his going on his third World Cup. But there's no conversation really be had there. As for the rest of the center backs that were brought for this World Cup, Miles Robinson, get him out. Tim Ream's going to be way too old. Get him out. And I've talked about this before. I've never been the biggest fan of Mark McKenzie. I understand he plays consistently for Toulouse over in France, but I've just never been the most confident with him as one of the center back options. So I'm going to move on from him as well. But Austin Trusty, I'm going to keep in the squad, mostly because of the fact that the United States does not have a large wealth of left-footed center backs. And I do think he's one of the few players at the center back position, barring Chris Richards, that can, and if you want to include Alex Freeman, fine, but that can hold his head up high with some of the performance that he put on. Against Portugal, I thought he played really well. Was he perfect? No. The game against against Turkey, was he perfect? No. Came up with the goal, but I like the athleticism that he provides, the left-footedness, I like that as well, and he's going to keep playing consistently for Celtic. Now, there are going to be some talks about like Cameron Carter-Vickers. I could see him getting his way back in the squad. He tore his Achilles last year, so his World Cup chances kind of got wiped out from underneath him, but right now, I would definitely consider or keep Austin Trusty in this squad. And then you got like Joshua Winder from Benfica, another left-footed option, has played in the back three before. He's a guy that could definitely be in the conversation as well. But right now, I'm going to have just Trusty in there. But the big name that everybody's going to be looking out for is Noah Kai Banks from Augsburg. He declined a United States international invite in March. There's a lot of speculation, I guess you could say, in regards to what his future is. With Jurgen Klopp going over to become the German national team manager, there's going to be a lot of conversation about him going over there. I talked about dual nationals and Mauricio Pochettino before, and maybe that bridge is burned. Maybe it's completely burned. But in regards to a ceiling, there's not a lot of center backs the United States has ever produced that have a ceiling similar to that of Noah Kai Banks. Did he have a great end of the season for Augsburg? No, he didn't play in their last 4 or 5 games of the season until the very last game when he came as a sub when they're already down 4-0. Like, it's not, like, the end of the season was not the greatest for him, but again, ceiling-wise, playing in a back three, playing on the left side of a back three, even though he's right-footed, I like that comfortability that he would have there, and if he's able to come over to the United States, and I'm holding out hope, because he did comment under Christian Pulisic and Chris Richards' Instagram post, so hopefully he joins the right team. And the last center back, like, Mauricio Pochettino has brought 5 center backs for this World Cup. Again, it was Richards, Ream, Robinson, Mark McKenzie, and Austin Trusty. So he's brought 5 center backs. He has brought 5 center backs for most of his camps, but in this one, I'm going to have only 4, and I'm going to have Neil Pierre being that last center back for the United States men's national team. 18 years old, a Rolls Royce, if you want to call it center back, 6'6". We saw the headed goal that he had a couple weeks ago. That athleticism and that body is just hard to replicate for the United States. We don't have a lot of center backs like that. The center back depth for the United States currently is not the greatest it's ever been. And I think Neil Pierre with the ceiling, would he play a lot? I don't really know. And maybe he is a go-to starter for the United States at that point in time. He's been linked with a move to Barcelona, but I think the most important thing for him right now is game time. So staying in Philadelphia, continuing to develop, I think is the best move for him going forward. But you just can't teach the height and athleticism that he could provide at the center back spot, which is one of the things the United States was lacking with Tim Ream as that left-sided center back for the United States. And other guys you could look at, for sure, like George Campbell from West Bromwich Albion could definitely be an option. They're 26 years old, can play right back, can play center back, has played left-sided center back for West Brom last season, so we'll see how he continues to develop. We already brought Cameron Carter-Vickers. Jackson Reagan from the Seattle Sounders, 6'6", another big center back, has struggled the past 2 games, but, you know, the Seattle Sounders in general have struggled in those past 2 games, so it's not just a him thing. Justin Che for the New York Red Bulls, he's been getting consistent minutes there. Started off as a right back, has moved in that center back position. You also got Christopher Cups for the Chicago Fire. Matai Akinboni from Bournemouth, we brought him up in previous videos. And another dual national option is Brian Ako for Auxerre. He's from the United States, but he's represented Switzerland at underage levels. He's 24 years old, so he'd be a more experienced player. He's not a prospect per se, but he's a left-sided center back. So we talked about recruiting dual nationals and needing a position for left-sided center back. He could be an option there. But right now, as things stand, I would go Chris Richards, Noah Kai Banks, Austin Trusty, and Neil Pierre as my 4 center backs. And I'm bringing 4 because Joe Scally and Alex Freeman can also play center back. And I'll talk about one of my midfielders who I think can also play center back as well. But left back, first name on here is Anthony Robinson. I think pretty straightforward. He'll be 32 years old by the time the 2030 World Cup rolls around. There are some injury concerns that we've seen from Fulham this past season. There's been some injury concerns with the United States over the past however many years now. So maybe his future is a little bit more in question than what I'm currently giving it credit for. For the United States, throughout the past however many years now has not really been blessed with depth at the left back position, which is why so many people want to recruit Nathaniel Brown. And we've seen Max Arston, who's been a Mauricio Pochettino favorite, but I'm not going to include him in this squad, even though he just got to move to Middlesbrough. I'm intrigued to see how he does there. They're kind of creating an American squad over there, but I am going to have Peyton Miller as my backup left back, or maybe starting left back at that point, attacking fullback, much like Sergiño Dest, which is what Mauricio Pochettino wants from his fullbacks, just flying down the wing, can play as a winger. We've seen him play as a right winger for New England Revolution recently. He signed a new deal, but I think that's only to increase the eventual transfer value that he's going to receive, because he's destined for a move elsewhere. He's destined for a move to Europe at some point in time. Insanely talented, great going forward. I think that he would be the natural progression from Anthony Robinson should he age out of the national team. I don't want to rule out Max Arston because of how much Mauricio Pochettino loves him, but I am going to have Peyton Miller in there with Anthony Robinson. Other guys in there, you got like Luca Bombino from San Diego FC. You got Landon Imanalo for Chelsea, which there's expected to be a 2-year transfer ban, so he could get some minutes for Chelsea. Caleb Wiley could be another guy. Maybe he gets some minutes in there as well. You got Christopher Lund, who made a move to Birmingham City, so there's a good amount of Americans in the championship right now, and there's probably some people that I'm forgetting in there as well, but those are the left back options. I would have Robinson and Miller going to 2030. Now, moving to the midfield area, this is going to be a very contentious area for the United States, because Christian Roldan, I would have never guessed in 100 years that Christian Roldan would have represented the United States. I say represented, he didn't play a single minute at this World Cup because he was hurt. 2 World Cups for Christian Roldan. That's insane. I would have never guessed that in 100. I don't even think Christian Roldan would have guessed that, but hey, credit to him, but we're not going to 3. We're not doing 3 World Cups for Christian Roldan. So the rest of the midfield we'll start with the deep line players, or the more players will be more deep. Tyler Adams will still be there. He's been linked with a move to Newcastle United, which I think would be a good move for him, especially with like Tonali leaving, with Bruno Guimaraes getting linked with a move to Arsenal, Joe Linton's future in question. So there's some depth that they could use at that midfield spot, and he covers a shit ton of ground. Yes, I know Eddie Howe's leaving, but he could be someone to cover a lot of ground. We talked about like the earth is covered by 70% water, the rest of it's covered by Tyler Adams. Like that's what Tyler Adams can provide. He covers so much ground for the United States, and one of the biggest leaders in this team. Talk about the captaincy, was the captain of the 2022 World Cup. Injuries could hamper him, but it's hard to believe again that he would not be in and around this squad. But one of the guys that could be eventual replacement for him is Audrey Mehmeti for the New York Red Bulls. In regards to vision, in regards to being a deep line playmaker, I think that's what Audrey Mehmeti could be. Now, are the assist numbers insanely high? No, but the amount of line breaking passes that he can produce, the vision of like, he looks at it, he looks quickly that way, he receives a pass, plays it off before the defender can even close down to him. He's got very quick feet, and again, can cover a lot of ground. So that would be a natural successor to Tyler Adams in that position. Young player as well, 17 years old, balling out for Michael Bradley's youth revolution for the New York Red Bulls. We'll talk about another guy here in a little bit. Dos Santos there, another left back. I forgot to mention him, but he can make some noise for the United States from the New York Red Bulls as well. But Mehmeti, definitely a long-term option for the United States. And the final one here is Tanner Tessman, who I've always considered one of Mauricio's men, who has not played, like the back half of the season. We talk about this Noah Kai Banks. He did not have a great back half of the season with Lyon this past year, which saw him get dropped from the World Cup squad. I thought he was a guy that Mauricio Pochettino would turn to as an instant starter in midfield next to Tyler Adams, because that's been a consistent figure. If you want to just talk player for player, like the stuff Roldan would bring is all off the field stuff. Like he's not going to provide anything on the field. There's nothing on the field that he can provide that's better than Tanner Tessman. And Tessman, 24 years old, 6'3". We talk about the midfield option playing at center back. He could be another guy in there and a good defensive option. There's been linked with him a move away from Lyon. Same with Joe Scally. I didn't mention this before, but Joe Scally's been linked with a move to the Premier League from Borussia Mönchengladbach. So I have to wait and see on him. But yeah, those would be my 3 deep lying midfielders in there. And then we're talking about number 8. First one you got to start off with Malik Tillman. Again, as we talked about before, arguably the best player in the United States men's national team. One of the players who could cover themselves in glory after this World Cup. And it's not even just because of the free kicks. Like, those were great. Like, the 61 seconds against Belgium was one of the greatest feelings I've ever had as a United States men's national team fan. The goal against Bosnia was fantastic. Against the run of play with 10 men, free kick. It was just fantastic. But even prior to the Bosnia goal, you could have sat there and confidently said he'd been one of the best players in the United States anyways. Like, he has got so much flair. There's a little cheekiness in there. You see a lot of back heels, which it's funny. It's cool when they're winning. It's frustrating when you're losing and he's still trying to back heel. But I like the audacious efforts that he's not afraid to try. And we talked about the defensive efforts that he's put in at club level this past year. He needs to get more consistent at Bayer Leverkusen, but he did still have 6 goals to his name this year. But the defensive efforts from the front have been very important to his development as a number 8, which people looked at that prior to the World Cup, including myself, like, well, what are you going to do there? Weston McKennie's going to play in that spot. But no, Malik Tillman did it and was awesome throughout the entire course of the World Cup. So he's one of the first names on the team sheet here. Johnny Cardoso is another one. He's going to get more consistent playing time for Atletico Madrid. That's going to be obvious. I mean, Koke is getting older. They haven't really been linked with a lot of central midfielders this season as well. Injuries kept him out of the World Cup. He was probably going to be, I would consider him like a risk, not a risky. His spot was in jeopardy, I would say, even prior to the injury. But I do think Johnny Cardoso, it's hard to think of a guy who's consistently playing for Atletico Madrid is not going to make the U.S. World Cup squad come 2030. So I think that'll be good for him to get back. Has he had the most consistent performances for the United States? No, I wouldn't say he has. I would say that given his talent level, his United States performances have been kind of disappointing, but I would expect that to improve over time as he continues to get more playing time at a top European team like Atletico Madrid. And the final position on here, it's going to frustrate some people, but Sebastian Berhalter, I have a hard time seeing not in this squad. Just got to move to Middlesbrough. Reuniting with Aiden Morris over there. They can create the TikToks over there. So you got him, you got Morris, and you got Max Arston all playing for Middlesbrough. So if you're an American and want to watch them, fan of the United States men's national team, you might want to tune into Middlesbrough in the championship this year. But Sebastian Berhalter provides something that not any other player really can provide for the United States men's national team. That's dead ball specialist. Dead ball specialist. Sorry. There's not a lot of other players who can deliver a ball like Sebastian Berhalter, whether it be from a free kick, whether it be from a corner. His ball striking ability is one of the top in this United States men's national team squad. Is he the best defensively? No, not necessarily. I don't have a ton of faith with him covering ground as a defensive player, but the heart that he showed at the 2026 World Cup, the skill in striking a ball, I think will keep him in the squad. And I think making a move to Middlesbrough in the championship, is there a big gap between the championship and in the MLS? It depends on who you ask, but he's gonna, if he continues to play like he has in MLS, providing the assists that he has, again, it's gonna be hard just for what I think of Mauricio Pochettino, what he loves about Sebastian Berhalter and the heart that he shows. I have a hard time thinking he wouldn't be in the squad. So those would be my deeper midfielders. So Tyler Adams, Audrey Mehdi, Tanner Tessman, and then we got Malik Tillman, Johnny Cardoso, and Sebastian Berhalter. And other players you can include like Aiden Morris as a defensive midfielder, James Sands for NYCFC, Snyder Brunel for the Seattle Sounders, Jude Terry for LAFC. So there's some good defensive midfielders that we could include here. And as for the number 8 position, and you could maybe include him as a 6, but Gianluca Busio, just named captain of Venezia, his goal is to keep them in Serie A. I love myself some Gianluca Busio. I mean, we love ourselves some Gianluca Busio around here. So this is not, if I was being biased, I would love to include him in the squad. And I think he deserves more of a run in the national team. He shouldn't just be called in the national team for Gold Cups. He should be more included in the national team long term anyways. I would love to see him get a run in the national team, especially with the A team. Yunus Musa, can he get more playing time with AC Milan? He did not have a great season for Atalanta. He improved the back half of the season, but that start of the year, it kind of got frozen out of the national team altogether. But those are two names in the number 8 position. Maybe if you want to talk about, again, number 6, you can include them there as well. Then you got like Benjamin Kremeshi from Parma. You've got Jack McGlynn, again, dead ball specialist, left-footed, can strike a ball like crazy. From a left-footed perspective, Jack McGlynn, again, with versatility in there as well. Cochran from Nashville SC. Then you got Rokas Pukstas from Hajduk Split, who's getting linked with a move to Hull City. He's not a guy who can play as number 8, can play as number 10 as well. But those are the guys that I would look at as other options for the number 8 position. And then we're moving up to the attacking midfield spots. Start off with Christian Pulisic, obviously. Weston McKennie's another one. Obviously, they're going to be in their 30s, but again, they're going to still be in and around the squad. But now players like Timothy Weah, who've been constant figures for the United States men's national team, might have a hard time breaking it with some of the youth guys that are coming through. Same with Brendan Aronson, who's had some up and down performances for Leeds United. We're going to have to wait and see what their futures look like, and they did not cover themselves in glory at all at this World Cup. The game against Turkey, Timothy Weah was brutal, and Brendan Aronson was wasteful in that game as well. And Brendan Aronson, for all intents and purposes, has mostly been used as a sub for the United States. He's never really been a full-time starter for the United States, and he does provide a good spark off the bench, but as a starter, I've never been really that confident in him, and maybe he does get into the squad at that point, but the big name to look out for is Giovanni Reyna. Getting a move to Strasbourg from Borussia Mönchengladbach, the big thing for Reyna is just consistency in play time. That's what he needs more than anything. Like when he was coming through Borussia Dortmund, it would have been insane not to think of him as a guy for the 2030 World Cup. But he's been in 2 World Cups now, 22 and 26, has barely played in either one of them, has not been consistent at club level at either one of them. And he was coming through with Haaland, with Sancho, with Bellingham, and he got his number taken away by Jude Bellingham's brother, Job, and he got put in a different number. And then he was on loan at, I think it was Nottingham Forest, struggled there, was on loan at Borussia Mönchengladbach, never really got full footing there as a starter. So if I'm sitting here right now, I don't want to give up on Giovanni Reyna, but it's hard for me to envision him still in the national team long term if he's not playing. I know Mauricio Pochettino has talked about like that's not the most important thing here, but he hasn't been consistent for the United States recently. Yes, he had that great goal against Paraguay, but I need him to get more play time. I need him to get more playing time. And if he doesn't, it's going to be hard for me to look at him and go, yes, you can guarantee a spot here. Is he one of the most talented players the United States has ever produced? Yes, but you need to play. You need to get consistent, and that's something that he has struggled with, so I'm not going to include him here. And instead, I'm going to have the likes of Xavier Gozo, who is one of the best attacking options the United States can produce right now. Can play as a wingback, can play as a number 10, can play as a striker even. And that versatility, we've talked about how Mauricio Pochettino really likes that. He could play as that right wingback, and again, as that number 10 position. We've seen the ball striking that he's had against Sporting Kansas City. In regards to a 1v1 attacker, he's one of the best in the MLS right now at 20 years old. Xavier Gozo, from an attacking standpoint, versatility standpoint, from a dribbling, athletic standpoint, there's not a lot of other players like him. And when you look at like Timothy Weah, who's great at just stretching the line, stretching the field, going down the field, the end product's never really been there for Timothy Weah. And there's been a question mark what his position is. Xavier Gozo, I think, is an upgrade or a potential upgrade on what Timothy Weah has provided for the United States men's national team. And then you also look at the likes of Mathis Albert for Borussia Dortmund, the youngest American ever play in the Bundesliga at 16 years old, broke Giovanni Reyna's record, ironically. And he's been talked about very highly by Niko Kovac, the manager for Borussia Dortmund. I think what's important with him, too, he plays at the left-sided 10, which is the position where he would play for the United States men's national team. One of the most talented players the United States has at their disposal. He's had a very solid preseason for Borussia Dortmund. I'm not going to say here he's like been amazing or anything, but he's gotten a goal in their preseason tour. I just think that ceiling that he provides there and the attacking outlet that he could have there from a depth perspective could be very key for the United States. Just a natural talent that he has there. It'd be hard for me not to include him in here. And then the final player is Kevin Sullivan. The United States loves themselves a prospect. The United States loves themselves a potential figure for the United States long-term, and Kevin Sullivan is that. 16 years old right now, starting to play more consistently with the Philadelphia Union, as we talked about before, playing as that right midfield spot. They play a 4-4-2, but Kevin Sullivan tucks in a lot. He tucks in quite a bit, and he's trying things. He's trying things. We're not going to sit here and say he's bored or anything, but he's just trying different dribble moves. He's trying little back heels. He's taking shots off the bounce from well outside the box. He's just trying things. Is he the finished product? No, not at all. He's 16 years old. But by the time the 2030 World Cup rolls around, given what the United States values in regards to like a young player that we can all rally behind and put an insanely, I don't know what you want to call it, unnecessarily amount of pressure on, Kevin Sullivan will be there. He's going to Man City when he turns 18 years old. We'll see what the playtime looks there. He's just got so much talent in there, and his playing as that right number 10 behind a Weston McKennie, I think would be the perfect spot for him in this national team. And then going forward in the striker positions, I think these are pretty straightforward. And I know that there's going to be a lot of people out there that want to include like Julian Hall from the New York Red Bulls, or Justin Ellis from Orlando City SC, or Jakupovic from the Philadelphia Union we talked about before. But right now, they're still really young. And maybe they could break through, but if you look at the other strikers the United States has who are playing consistently over in Europe and playing well, are they going to be able to break past those guys? And right now, the 3 strikers that I would look at for the United States are Folarin Balogun, obviously, Ricardo Pepi, who's scoring goals for fun at PSV, and I think the move to Fulham that fell through is going to work out for his benefit because of the fact he struggled with the physicality at the World Cup. Maybe a league like the Netherlands, like the Eredivisie, is the best league for him. And then the final one is Patrick Ajiming. Like, if he didn't tear his Achilles, he would have been one of the strikers at the World Cup. And we've talked about how much Mauricio Pochettino likes him, and he might not be the most aesthetically pleasing striker out there. He might not have the greatest first touch out there. He might look a little wonky, but he's still developing. And he played well for Derby County this past season. I would expect him to continue to grow in that role, and he provides something different. He's a physical specimen who can play with his back to goal, which is what you need from a single striker system. And if you look at Julian Hall, you look at Justin Ellis, they still need to develop as those guys with their backs to goal. Now, could they play as one of those 10 positions? Justin Ellis has played quite a few different positions for Orlando City. He could be one of those number 10s that we talk about. Same with Julian Hall, could play as one of those number 10s. But right now, their development still needs to get to that spot where I can look at them and go, yes, you're going to be a striker for the United States men's national team in this system that they're running. I don't want to rule them out completely. I would personally have Justin Ellis above Julian Hall at this point in time. You know, Julian Hall has a lot more goals than Justin Ellis. He's just now getting into the form for Orlando City SC and playing with Antoine Griezmann. With some of the comments Griezmann's been making about Ellis, it's hard not to see the future is insanely bright for him at this point in time. But those would be my strikers. And if we're looking at like the other options for these attacking spots, I think Nico Sakris for San Jose Earthquakes, left-footed, can strike a free kick. We talked about Jack McGlynn with the left-footedness of that, one of the most creative players in the MLS, 21 years old right now. He's definitely going to be in and around that conversation with the number 10 position. He can also play as number 8 if you need him to, but that left-footedness could be something to look at for the United States. Diego Luna was a guy that a lot of people were really hyped about going into the 26 World Cup. One of the bigger names left off. I mean, there's only 2 names left off. It was Tessman and Luna, and Tessman was the more surprising out of the 2, but Luna, I'm intrigued to see what Diego Luna does. What his future looks like. I know Mauricio Pochettino loves him, but I just don't see where he breaks in with some of the attacking talent that the United States currently has from the youth development standpoint at this point. You got Cole Campbell in there as well. Nimfasa Berchimas for Charlotte FC, who just got a major injury, so that's a very unfortunate situation for him. Hopefully a speedy recovery, and I hope that he actually gets allowed, whenever he recovers from his injury, is able to actually break in to the Charlotte first team, because talent-wise, he more than deserves it, so I just want to see him play more consistently for them. And then you also got Quinn Sullivan as well, who's coming back from injury, so there's some option there as that number 10 position. And then as the strikers, we've talked about them all before, but like Julian Hall, Justin Ellis, Jakupovic from Philadelphia Union, who needs to break in there, but they got some young strikers in there as well. Haji Wright, could be 32 years old, first season in the Premier League for Coventry City, so we'll see how he does there. And Damian Downs for Southampton. He's got the physical profile that you would look for a striker in this system. 6'4", can move off the ball really well. But right now, I just see the strikers right now, and I think it's pretty straightforward. Maybe I'm being too simple with it, but I think it's pretty straightforward of Ajiman, Balogun, and Pepe. But that would be my roster. That would be my squad. Here it is on the screen right now, and I think there's about 14 or 15 holdovers from the 2026 World Cup squad, and I think that's about the number that you normally get for a World Cup squad. I know there's going to be a lot of people out there that, again, are very upset that some of these players are still in play. Get Pulisic out there. Get McKennie out of there. Get all these guys out there. Build around Balogun and Tillman. They will. But those players will still be in around there as well. So that's my squad. Here's my projected starting 11, which looks a little similar to the one we saw in 2026. But I just think, again, that some of these players are a lot younger right now than I think people think they are. Like Joe Scally's 23 years old. Dest is 24 or something, or 25. Like they're still really, really young players. And they're going to continue to grow with their clubs, and hopefully we see more commitment to the national team, some heart, some drive, and Mauricio Pochettino being there for another 4 years. We've seen it, the tick, to a certain extent, but it needs to turn again. The Belgium game was kind of like, okay, that old stuff is still in there. We need to fully rectify that. And I think the Gold Cup being in Mexico in 2027 is a massive move. Is massive. I think World Cup qualifying will be really big for this group as well, and I'm excited. Now we need to qualify. That's the big thing. Need to qualify for this World Cup. 2018 made me realize that nothing's guaranteed. Just make sure to qualify for the 2030 World Cup. But that's my squad prediction. What is your prediction? Let me know down in the comment section below, or what you thought of my prediction. Everything, let me know down in the comment section below. Make sure to check out all the links in the description, but most importantly, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Here's the numbers again, and make sure to hit the bell button and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. If you did not, I sincerely apologize. Try to be better next time. I've been Logan Blackman, and I will see you guys later. Peace.